Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Dennis Giannoutzis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutzis.
So the show is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that term, what does that term mean for you?
Boy, it means so many different things. I work in the tech space, and so it's about the fourth industrial revolution, the blurring of boundaries between physical, digital, biological worlds. It's 3D printing, it's genetic engineering, it's quantum computing, it's AI, it's decarbonization, it's the pace of change. And so it's all of these things, but it's also having faith and having hope and marshaling the troops, so to speak, and pulling people together so that there is a process around change, there is a communication channel within change, and that people are included instead of excluded in the decisions that are going to be made that affect how they work, where they work, why they work. We've got 5 generations, 4 major races in the world, 195 countries make up this planet, 5,000 plus different ethnic groups, 9 time zones. And we all should have one goal when it comes to leadership, and that's leading the people effectively and making sure we keep them apprised of what's going on at all steps.
Yeah, nice. And when you say keep them apprised of each of the steps, what do you mean? What do leaders have to do to enable that?
It first starts with being as transparent as they possibly can and keeping the lines of communication open. It's using your IQ to show more EQ and making sure that people realize that you are, quote unquote, in the trenches with them going forward with the changes that are taking place. It's letting them know who they can turn to for support, what the websites are that they need to access the information from, which group of 5 is going to go first in this process, when will training take place, what resources will be available to them on the first day they log into this new tool, or whatever it is that shapes this change that they're dealing with. It's being inclusive. You talk about diversity and inclusion. You can be a company that's very diverse, having all of the right people in the right places from different backgrounds, different walks of life, ethnicities, races, creeds, etc. But that doesn't mean you're inclusive. That doesn't mean those people come into the office knowing that they're valued for what they do, that they are accepted for who they are, and that they have equal opportunities to thrive. And as a leader, unless you're providing that foundational safety net, so to speak, nobody's going to be comfortable with anything that's happening. And so you really have to always have that at the forefront of what you do.
And do you feel that, in your opinion, watching leaders around the world in different organizations, we talk about diversity and inclusion. Diversity seems to get a lot of sort of press, if I can put it that way. The inclusion, I think, sometimes gets forgotten, or it's because it's always the D and I, and it's the I gets left behind. Is that what your thoughts and your experience has been? And what can we do around that?
Such a great question, and one that is becoming more and more important, as you point out. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We started off with best of intentions in every entity across the world that we were going to become more diverse. But again, that didn't mean we were focusing on that inclusive piece so that people feel like they belong. Sometimes these roles are called diversity, inclusion, and belonging, diversity and inclusion and equity. So you get the gist of where I'm going here, that we have had to make a shift over the past few years from saying, yeah, we have sexual harassment training. Yeah, we have anti-discrimination training. And that's our diversity program. You and I both know that's not going to be enough, no matter what the company is that says these things. So it's getting beyond the checkbox to making sure that as people are being interviewed and screened for interviews, that we're taking into consideration that we want our employee base to be a reflection of what society looks like. When I walk down the sidewalk, I don't know about you, if I look around, I don't see people who look exactly like me from my exact age group wearing the exact same kind of clothes as I am. I see very different people around me. And that's what we need to have more of in the workplace. And this is the first time in the history of the working world where we actually have 5 generations in the same building at the same time. So we have to be representative of the generational balance. We want to be representative of the gender balance and people of color and people of all different walks of life in leadership roles. And that's what's been changing over these past 5 to 10 years, wherein leaders are having to pull their thoughts together around what it means to be an inclusive leader, what it means to provide equitable opportunities, and what it means for them and for their teams and for the company if they are able to pay attention to all of this and hire the right people at the right time.
When you talk about the 5 generations in the building right now, this is really quite interesting to hear that. When you say the 5 generations in the building right now, all those generations will want things different from leadership. So, in general, though, what do you think they want in leadership?
They want that opportunity to be heard and to be respected and to have the chance to stretch themselves. They want a leader who will really make them aware of what the team metrics are that they should be living up to and keep them informed as to where they stand within the team hierarchy.
Mm,
They also want a leader who is going to go to bat for them, speak for them and be on their behalf when there's opportunities for advancement or for additional learning programs that have to be nominated by a leader. And then obviously they want to make sure that leader is paying attention to what they have done successfully and celebrating it. Too often, someone goes the extra mile and yet nothing is ever said about it. And that's such a deflating thing for an individual. It makes them feel like, why did I do all that? Why did I stay here late or come in early or work over the weekend when nobody even acknowledged what I did? So leaders have to be willing and able to praise when it's right, to give considerate amounts of feedback that were not necessarily required in generations previously, and to really keep that line of communication open so that their people really know that the open door policy, which has been touted for what, the last 30 years, is a
mm.
reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And I think the big thing I'm hearing is that recognition or that celebrating even success for at times. And I don't know, I don't think it costs leaders much to actually recognize somebody. Just a few words to say, well done, or recognize them and maybe in front of their peers, in front of others. If not, just on a one-on-one basis. It doesn't cost
Mhm.
anything. But then again, leaders struggle to do it. They're on to the next thing that I've got to get on with, another project, and we're just got to get on with things, right? And it's just, hang on a sec, can we just take some stock and do some celebration here and recognize people? Because that has massive weight in helping people move forward.
Oh, absolutely. And we all have read the articles where it talks about how a person who feels appreciated always goes above and beyond. And when you acknowledge their knowledge and their experience and their efforts, they become your ally. And then when change does have to take place within the organization, they'll be on your side of the change instead of one of those naysayers because you have shown them that you respect them and they respect you in turn.
Yeah, nice. On your side of the change, being your ally, that's awesome. Do you want those advocates? You want those influencers on your side for sure. Hey, the show is called Leadership is Changing, and that title there, when I was recovering from having the tumor removed, this is one of the ideas that popped into my head. And so it was like, wow. And so leadership is changing. When I say that title, what does that mean for you?
We've talked a lot already in just a few minutes we've started here about that hunger for growth. And I believe that is one of the hallmarks of successful leaders today is their ability to adapt and grow. My business is not exempt from change. And I think every business today, the first 20 years of their business, things are changing. The dynamics, the economies, the people, the technology, all of that. And that is unique. If you think of leaders of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they were leading companies that were very monolithic. They were very slow to innovate. Innovations came from companies like GE. They came from companies like Hewlett Packard and Bell, or Hewlett Packard and I was going to say Bell, Dell, and like the tech companies. But now those innovations can happen with two guys and some software coming out of wherever, middle of nowhere. So the ability to change as a leader is the most critical function, I believe, in terms of being a successful leader. And leadership is changing is, to me, when I hear that, that's job requirement number one for a leader, is to being able to navigate that and to be comfortable with it. I'm excited for it. I was just on one-on-ones with my engineering team, and we were talking about some technology that we're working that's 2, 3, 4 years out. But this technology is like, I'll share a little bit. Disclaimer, this is not happening anytime soon if you're a Design Pickle client. Predictive algorithms to match you with the best creative. That's all done right now by hand. Like, we do a lot of that manually, but there's no reason why we can't look at your brand. We can't look at the past work of a creative. We can't look at this new layer of machine learning inside our technology to do that at scale and do it in a way that sees success in the creative process. To me, that's change. And I'm like stoked. Like, I'm really excited. Other leaders might be, no, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that's obviously not the path that I recommend.
Yeah, and what I really like about that is the fact that there is a lot of people, leaders like that, as you said, they don't want to do it. They want to stay in their comfort zone. We're okay. But then, like in my introduction, if they're not changing quick enough, then they're becoming irrelevant to being left behind. Now, you're talking about 4 years, maybe longer out there in the future, which is fantastic. So you're starting to think about the future, but it starts now. And what I always say, Russ, is that wherever you are today in life, whether it be in a leadership role, whatever you've done, it's based on what you've done in the last 5 years. What you're doing now is setting yourself up for the future, which is beautiful to see as well.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.